Scott just made
Go
the
back to
point
Thomas
just
Jefferson,
yesterday.
you'll
used to
read
be a
that.
lot more secure.
How will Republicans actually achieve limited government? Welcome to the Trifecta Platinum series on PJTV. The first 100 days. That's the first 100 days under the new Republican president. We're going to explore what to expect or perhaps what to demand when the GOP commander-in-chief hits the Oval Office on January 20, 2017. These 6 episodes are available only to PJTV members and in the PJ Store. I'm PJTV's Scott Ott, joined now by Stephen Green and Bill Whittle. And then the federal government has roughly 500 departments and agencies as we scroll the list here, and 2.7 million employees, not including military or subcontractors. Although the number of employees is actually the lowest at any time since 1966, government spending as a percentage of GDP is up significantly. Now, of course, as I said, they don't count subcontractors, and we've done a lot of subcontracting. And the cost of entitlement programs keeps climbing with the baby boomers. Every election season, we hear the Republican song, smaller government, lower taxes. And there's always a good reason why we don't get either one. But when the new Republican president takes the helm in 2017 with a Republican Congress, they'll have virtually free rein to shrink the size and scope of government. Stephen Green, you might think that there must be some fat in a hog that big, but how will the new Republican president lead Congress to find it and fry it?
Oh, you know what? There is a great role. This just occurred to me. It's such a dang shame the country rejected Mitt Romney in 2012 because he's such a genuinely decent guy, and I think people trust him as a genuinely decent guy. Maybe not enough numbers to make him president, but certainly enough for this job I just envisioned. You know, President Clinton in 1993 put Al Gore in charge of rationalizing some government programs, and he actually did a pretty decent job of it. It's the one thing I can look back and say, Al Gore, that was well done. That was some good work, but it was too small. What I would like to do is to bring Mitt Romney on board to head up a commission. You know, we have 47. I think it's 47. Different jobs programs in various agencies. Nobody knows where to go. Nobody knows what to do. Nobody knows what to spend. Nobody knows who's spending what. Nobody's getting people any jobs. And so you get a guy like Mitt Romney who made $1 billion right-sizing companies, and you put him in charge of finding all of this duplication and this waste and submitting to Congress for an up or down vote a streamlining plan to consolidate this stuff. And I think that would make a great first step. You know, politically, it's hard. It's like a cancer that's spread throughout the body. You can't just lop it off or you're going to kill the patient. You've got to go in and take this kind of one step at a time. And I think if we did it this way, we could eliminate billions and billions of dollars and a ton of these stupid little tiny agencies in a way that would be a great first baby step that would win the public's trust for the next big round a little later on. Not much later on, just a little later on.
You know, when Mitt Romney took over the Winter Olympics, that was a hive of corruption and villainy, and it was failing. Yeah. And he turned the thing around and made it a fantastic event. One of the first things he did was he called a meeting of his staff, and at the lunch meeting, they ordered out for pizza. And he passed a hat and had people chip in a couple of bucks to pay for the pizza. And I thought that was a beautiful gesture to say, this is the way we're going to run this organization. We are here to serve the people. We're not here to serve ourselves. That's not a bad idea, Stephen Green. Well, Bill Whittle, every one of those 500 departments and agencies has a fiercely protective constituency, and it was created to right some wrong or accomplish some good or heal the world. So how do we know that you cold-hearted Republicans aren't going to hurt a lot of people when you swing that axe to limit the size of government?
Well, first thing I would do when you've got this kind of a pathology, it's really the only word for it, is you do what you have when you have any kind of a pathology. You do triage, right? I would triage the federal government. That's what I would do. And basically I would say these are essential departments. They have to stay. I'm not going to cut the Air Force, and I'm not going to cut the Department of Defense. I'm not going to cut those. They're going to stay. They're not going to go. There are some, just on a first pass, that are immediately obvious as being superfluous. They're just going to go. Terribly sorry. The job market will be improving shortly when all of the money that we've been taking from your tax payment to fund this nonsense goes back to your pocket. You get to spend it on whatever you want to. And then in the middle, you've got these agencies that have to probably be a little more carefully means tested. Frankly, I had a thought watching this. It's like, we should probably have 7 or 8, there's 500 departments, 50 at the top end. I'm thinking more like maybe 20, 10, 15, 20 departments. And then we should also have a new department. I'm in favor of one new department called the Department of Miscellaneous. And everything that is not one of the 10 or 12 departments that survive goes into the Department of Miscellaneous, which has a reasonably small staff, and they handle all this stuff on a fire-by-fire basis. Because, frankly, this is absurd. Just look at that, Scott. It's just ridiculous. I think the final thing you have to do, though, to make the case to the American people, you have to lead with this. You have to understand the left has nothing. All of this 500 pages of drivel got there because we don't know how to defend freedom. We don't know how to defend doing nothing, really. That's a little harder to do. I'm going to come in and I'm going to make everything happen. Well, I think you should just stay away and leave it alone. It's harder to sell that. But basically what I would do is I would say to the American people, listen, every single one of these things costs money, and it's coming out of your paycheck. We don't generate money. We print a lot of debt, but we don't generate money. We're going to stop doing that now. So we think that, for example, the disabilities thing I saw there is better served by having private individuals and giving them charitable tax breaks to deal with disabled people in their local communities out of love and concern and caring, where they're chipping in for the cost of their own pizza instead of sending out to Mastro's for 45 steak dinners and invoking a charge of $15,000 for the cost of the meeting. Just basically say, you're going to get more money in your pocket. We're going to do more with less because it's going to be local, it's going to be cared about, it's going to be actual charity, not government-sponsored larceny and four-quadrant spending where nobody cares about what it costs and nobody cares about the quality.
Yeah.
You know, in 1789, I believe it was, you just reminded me of something I read in a book recently. The State Department started out with 3 employees. It was the Secretary of State and a couple of assistants. And but then the population of the country was only about 3 million people. So now it's up over 300 million people. So I would say that means, let me do the math here, 3 times 100. I think the State Department could now make do with about 300 employees. I think that's completely reasonable. So, Stephen,
I love it.
If you're the Republican candidate that's going to get a chance to actually reduce the size and scope of government, how do you talk about that right now in the campaign, or do you talk about it at all?
Well, you know, the real problem is, and this is where we get back to sort of a sunny future Reagan-esque message. We're going to drown in entitlements. You know, we've got this huge entitlements program, and we've got an $18 trillion economy, which sounds like a lot, but it is not a big enough economy to support this massive and growing entitlement program we have. Now, it is possible to eliminate a lot of that problem by growing our way out of it. Maybe we can't shrink government, certainly not right away, but we can make the economy bigger in proportion to the government, and the way you do that is you bring growth back. You know, we need about a $30 or a $35 trillion economy to afford our entitlement state. And at 2% growth like we've been getting, or 0.2% growth like we got last quarter, it takes you for dang near ever to grow an $18 trillion economy to $30 or $35 trillion economy. But if you eliminate regulations, forget about eliminating the spending, just start chopping regulations off just left and right. Get out of the innovator's way, get out of the entrepreneur's way, and we get back to 7, 8, 9% growth. And before you know it, we do have a $35 trillion economy. We have a $40 trillion economy, and the size of our problems shrinks correspondingly. And you know what? When everybody's richer, everybody's happier. And that's the honest truth, and that's what we've got to get back to.
Well, Bill, I know you're feeling good about what Steve just said, but let me just break this to you gently. No one cares about limited government. No one cares. So don't you agree that GOP candidates should just give up on this loser issue?
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. The only people that care about limited government are the people who already voted for or are going to vote for this conservative Republican president. So how do you make the argument to the rest of the people? You get out some people who can do a little bit of math, and you hold up all of these things as a paycheck issue. You basically say, look, If you're making $40,000 a year, if we enact this policy, the first year it's going to save you $750. The second year it's going to save you $1,200. The third year it's going to save you $1,760. That's what's going to happen in the next 3 years. If we eliminate this, this is what it's going to save you in your paycheck. You just come up with a number. You have $50,000, $10,000, multiply it by what you make. For every $10,000 you make, by doing this, we're going to save you $700 a year. We're going to save you $4,000 a year if we do this. Period. Now, you may think that this is a catastrophe, but it's not a catastrophe because the more money you have, the more money can be pushed around, the more the economy grows, the more tools we have. The fault in the logic that Steve had, and I'm sure he sees it, he was being, just trying to tell you how long it would take to get to a trillion dollar economy. Trillion. But the problem, of course, is even if you got to a $35 trillion economy, the entitlement state would outgrow it. You'd have $70 trillion of entitlement problems that way. The thing also I would say again to the American people is you got to say, look, we're in this for the long haul. All right? I know people are scared when they hear people like me talking about cutting budgets, but let's just be real here. We're not turning anybody out in the street. We're not burning anybody's house down. Okay, it took us 45, 50 years, 60 years to get to this level where half of the country is on entitlements. It's going to take us 50 years to get out of it. And once again, you explain the idea of triage, the very easy things, the very hard things, and the things in the middle. The very easy things we're going to do right now. The very hard things we're not going to do for 40 years. The things in the middle we'll look at as we get our feet underneath us with this thing. But we're in it for the long haul. And of all the things you said, Scott, about what Mitt Romney did with the Olympics, it was the leading by example, because I think the American people will go down this road, but you have got to lead this from the front. You cannot talk about belt tightening and then get on the biggest private jet in the world and go out for another 18 rounds of golf in Hawaii for the 40th time this year. You got to fly first class. Or you got to do something like that. You have to take the little jet. You know, the president travels in Air Force One, but we have any number of Air Force jets that become Air Force One when the president is on board. We got 757s, we have 737s, we have a couple of DC-9s.
Yeah.
The president's going to hop from Washington to Cleveland. He should fly in the DC-9. You know, if the vice president is secure, because I would have a real vice president, I would just have a ventriloquist dummy, show people that you're serious. Show them that you mean it. That's how you have to do it. You have to spring for your own pizza. If you do that, if you cut the presidential budget, if you cut the White House budget by what, 50%, 80%, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, we're not going on vacation this year. We're going to get out and go to Camp David. We're not traveling over here for vacation. We just saved the American taxpayer $750,000 for this vacation that we didn't take because we don't deserve to take it. Times are tough. All of a sudden, people will start to get behind this. I'm telling you, they will.
I love this picture. President Whittle today played the municipal golf course in Cleveland with a yard sale golf bag. He walked the whole thing, and the golf balls he used, he fished out of the pond at the course as he went.
Yes, or he played ping pong in the basement.
Love it.
Well, while political candidates on the campaign trail may lie from time to time, and once elected failed to do what they said they would do, they'll never do something in office that they didn't even mention on the campaign trail. So we need to listen to the undertones of constitutional conviction among the candidates. And when we hear them, we may have to ignore some other flaws and set aside disagreements on pet issues. The secret to trimming the size and scope of the federal government does not lie in purging our particular peccadillos from the public square, but in getting the government back into its constitutional box, bounded by enumerated powers. The Constitution contains several mechanisms to accomplish that, and the solution is not dependent solely upon getting the right person in the White House. So, why wait for 2016? For Bill Whittle, Stephen Green, and the entire Trifecta crew at PJTV.com, I'm Scott Ott, and we appreciate your investment in liberty.
Scott just made the point.
Used to be a lot more secure.